Hey everybody, this is Anthony for VR Game Rankings, and welcome to episode 40 of our daily vlog series. It, of course, is Monday, November 27th, and I have a small handful of news stories to get into and possibly a few VR experiences to talk about as well. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Okay, the very first story that I have for you guys is Magic Leap. Yeah, Magic Leap, I don't know what it is about Magic Leap, but I'm still rooting for this company. I really feel like there has to be some major technological breakthrough that is going to happen in the near future, and maybe Magic Leap is it. Now, it might not be it. It might be a complete bust, but for some reason I'm still holding out hope that Magic Leap has something truly magical to deliver, and we do have a new Magic Leap story. Now, it doesn't have a ton of substance to it, but still it is a new Magic Leap story, and this might be the first time that I've actually covered Magic Leap on our daily vlog series, so that's kind of cool. But anyway, the first story that we have is Magic Leap. The first Magic Leap device could be called Magic Leap 1. Okay, and so this story comes to us from Road to VR. Magic Leap filed for a trademark for the name Magic Leap 1 with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office on November 6th of this year, very recently. At the same time, they also filed for a trademark for Magic Leap Monster Battle. Now, apparently, in regards to Magic Leap Monster Battle, apparently they have filed for this trademark before and then have abandoned it, and filed for it again and then have abandoned it. And this has been going on since 2013, but now just a few weeks ago, they filed for Magic Leap Monster Battle again. And so we have to remember that back in September, Bloomberg had a story on Magic Leap where they said that Magic Leap was finally nearing the point where they were going to be shipping their first consumer version to a small group of selected people that would kind of be like the testers, the initial beta wave of the product, testing out actual finished versions of Magic Leap, but it still wasn't going to be available for widespread consumer purchase until a little bit further off into the future, but that this was going to start the process. And it's very possible that filing for this trademark for the name Magic Leap 1 and for also Magic Leap Monster Battle, this could be getting them ready to send out these devices to this first wave of people that are going to be trying out the Magic Leap equipment. And so first of all, let's talk about the name Magic Leap 1. Okay, so the first thing that pops to mind when you hear the name Magic Leap 1, at least this is for me, okay, so we have the Oculus Rift CV1, which is the Oculus Rift Consumer Version 1. Now, when you hear that that is the name for the Oculus Rift, that's like the official name, CV1, Consumer Version 1, what that immediately tells you is there's going to be a consumer version 2. Because why would they call it consumer version 1? Why would they specify it like that? So it kind of lets you know, hey, this is our very first attempt. This is the first consumer version. Go ahead, buy it, have a lot of fun, but there is going to be a consumer version 2. And that's kind of what you get from the name of the Oculus Rift CV1. And so I think that's kind of the same thing that we're getting here with Magic Leap 1, is that by calling it Magic Leap 1, they're kind of letting you know, hey, this is our very first product, and there will be many more products to follow. This is just the first in a long line of Magic Leap products. And so this is kind of both good and bad. It's kind of bad in a way because when they have this name Magic Leap 1, what it tells me is they're kind of like, it's almost like they're prepping you for a little bit of disappointment in terms of like saying, look, this is not the final product that Magic Leap has. This is just our first consumer product. It's Magic Leap 1. We think it's bringing a lot to the table, but it isn't everything that Magic Leap could possibly have in store for the future. We might have even better products that could come down the line. So this could be slightly disappointing from the standpoint that it's almost like it's preparing us to be slightly underwhelmed, but with the caveat that, hey, this is just the first one. There's going to be many more after this. So that could be some possibilities with the name. And then the other part of this story is, yeah, what about these consumer versions that are going to be shipping out within the next 6 months? Remember, this report was back in September. I don't remember if it was late September or early September, but 6 months, months are starting to tick away as we speak. So when are these things going to start sliding out to this select group of people? Now, my expectation, like if someone came up to me and said, well, how do you think Magic Leap is going to handle all of this? How is this going to play itself out? My personal thought is that Magic Leap would probably have like a major press conference early in 2018 where they would officially show off the Magic Leap 1. They would probably show off a handful of software titles for Magic Leap 1. They would have this major press conference, and then at this press conference, they would announce that they're shipping a handful of these devices to a select group of people that are going to kind of be the beta testers before this ends up going widespread to all consumers. And so they can kind of hint at the fact that maybe late in the fourth quarter in 2018, this thing is going to be available for all consumers to purchase. And this is kind of how they're getting the ball rolling. So the first initial wave of these units are going to start hitting certain people in the press and developers and stuff like that. And then later on, it will have widespread introduction to the rest of consumers out there. So my guess is probably by like February of 2018, they would have to have a major press conference and kind of come out with this stuff. So if this is really going to happen, the good news is we don't have to wait too much longer, because they're going to have some type of press conference pretty soon here, because the only other way this could happen is if they just start sending these things out to people. And then obviously there's going to be some type of NDA that people will have to sign for it as well. But it's kind of like they want this information to get out there, and they want these people to get their hands on it, and then kind of let these people be the evangelists that spread it out to everybody else. And Magic Leap Monster Battle, the fact that they're trademarking this could point to the fact that this could be maybe one of the included pieces of software that people get, and they have to trademark this and lock this down so that it's prepared for when they have this introduction. So honestly, I think this is very exciting. Now, again, we don't have a lot of information here, and a lot of this is speculative at best. All we have is a trademark filing. We really don't have a ton of information in this story, but I still think we can kind of extrapolate it and kind of figure out where we think this is going. Magic Leap eventually has to have a product. They can't do this pony show forever. They can't hide this forever. They're going to have a product. They've had so much funding. They've probably broken many records in terms of venture capitalist funding without actually revealing any kind of product, and that has to happen. So I think 2018 is the time. Magic Leap has been around for many years, and I think now is the time that we're going to finally get a product. And you know what? I'm hoping that somebody at Magic Leap has watched VR Roundtable. Okay, someone at Magic Leap is a fan of VR Roundtable, and they have to know that of all the media that is out there, I have supported Magic Leap since the very beginning. And please send me one of these units so I can get a sample of it. I want to try Magic Leap Monster Battle, and I will be your evangelist, Magic Leap. So send me a unit. info@vrgamerankings.com is my new email. It's no longer vrgamerankings@gmail.com. I finally decided to step up and have an official email. So info@vrgamerankings.com. If you want to get a hold of me, that's the way to do it. So Ronnie Abovitz, send me that Magic Leap package. I'm looking forward to it. It should be arriving in the mail very soon. Okay, number 2 story we have is virtual reality HMDs pass the 1 million shipment mark in a single quarter. Now, this is news because this has never happened before. So basically, VentureBeat has a story about a report from Canalys Research that revealed that in the third quarter of this year, 1 million 1 million virtual reality HMDs shipped in the third quarter of this year. And I have a quote from Vincent Thielk, which is a Canalys research analyst. He says that VR adoption in the consumer segment is highly dependent on price, and Oculus's strategy of lowering prices has definitely driven adoption. So when it comes to this 1 million headsets that have shipped, Sony was the market leader with shipments of around 490,000 PSVR units. Oculus came in number 2 with 210,000 Oculus Rifts that were shipped. And then HTC came in third with 160,000 HTC Vives shipped. And that these three companies, they're combined for a total of 86% of the total headsets shipped, so that these three companies are absolutely dominating the VR market clearly. And so this is exciting news because, hey, this is the first time that this has happened. And VR, we got to remember that VR is a new thing and that we're slowly but surely getting the word out. I can tell you, I recently saw a thread on Reddit where this guy was saying that there's people that still don't even know that VR exists. He was talking about how he was at some type of party or something and was talking about VR, and he came across a handful of people that didn't even know what VR is. So we're still in the very beginning phase of getting VR out there to the masses and getting VR exposed to everybody. And it's good to see that, you know, in the third quarter of this year, we did have a grand total of 1 million headsets that did ship, and this is the first time that this has happened. Now, a lot of this goes to the Oculus Rift because Summer of Rift, you know, they had that big sale, they dramatically lowered the price. This is saying that around 210,000 Oculus Rift headsets were shipped in the third quarter. PSVR did the best with 490,000. A lot of that has to do with the fact that you don't need a computer, you know, so if you already have a PS4, and there are millions upon millions of consumers worldwide that already have a PS4, so all they have to do is just add that PSVR headset. Not as expensive, so obviously they had the lead there. And 160,000 Vives, you know, that's really good for the Vive when you consider that the Vive is a more premium product, a more expensive product, but it's still holding its own and it's still shipping quite a few units, so that is impressive. Alrighty, the next story we have is PlayStation VR sales in the UK are even better than what we previously thought. Now, I had a number of stories, I believe, last week about how well Skyrim VR was selling in the UK, and Skyrim VR, of course, came out on November 17th, and so that has been out there for a little while. But now what we're finding out is that PSVR sales in general have been absolutely incredible in England for whatever reason. So this is according to GfK Chart Track. They're saying that the past week of PlayStation VR sales in England, in the UK, have been equivalent to 18 weeks prior. So if you take all the sales of the PlayStation VR for 18 weeks and you add that number up, that's what they sold in the most recent week. And all of this, of course, is because of major price drops. I've seen some incredible bundles for anybody that is living in the UK. I've seen some really good bundles where you're paying like £250. You're getting the PlayStation VR bundle that comes with PlayStation VR Worlds, but they're also throwing in Skyrim. I've seen deals where it's like £250 for the PlayStation VR bundle, and then Skyrim is like £40 or whatever it is. And then, but when you put it together and when you put that into your cart, they chop off the price for Skyrim VR, and so you're getting the whole package for like £250. So this has caused the sales in the UK to just be astronomical. One of the other things that Chart Track was saying is that the sales for this last week are basically equivalent to when PlayStation VR launched last year, October of last year. And also, in more news that comes along with this, is that PlayStation VR Worlds has climbed all the way to number 11 on the charts. You might remember I had a story last week where Skyrim VR was at number 19, but I said maybe more importantly is the fact that you have PlayStation VR Worlds coming in right behind it at number 20. Well, now PlayStation VR Worlds has jumped Skyrim, and it's all the way up there at number 11. And one of the main reasons this has happened is because a lot of people are getting these bundles that have Gran Turismo Sport, or they're just getting a bundle where it's just PlayStation VR Worlds and they're not getting Skyrim or anything else thrown in as well. And because of this, PlayStation VR Worlds is included in all of these bundles. So whenever these bundles sell, that counts as a sale for PlayStation VR Worlds. So it's jumped all the way to 11th, which is showing once again that PlayStation VR sales in England in particular are really just out of control, which is wonderful news. This is great news for the entire VR market. I don't care if you're an HTC Vive owner and you don't give a damn about PlayStation VR, or you're an Oculus Rift owner and you don't give a damn about PlayStation VR, because this is still important news for you as well. Because if you care about the general health of the VR gaming industry, you should be very happy about what is going on with PlayStation VR, because what this is doing, a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's what's going on here. If the PlayStation VR is tremendously successful, the thing we have to remember, there's a couple of things we have to remember with this. First off, PlayStation VR could almost be looked at as like a gateway drug into VR. It's almost like my child's first VR headset, is kind of what I mean, that's a little bit disrespectful for me to say that, because PlayStation VR can really stand on its own. I mean, there's a lot of great experiences on PSVR that are right there with the stuff that people are experiencing on the Vive and the Rift. But one way you can look at it is it's kind of like a gateway drug. People can get a PSVR, they can get a taste of what VR provides, and then if they want to jump up to an even more powerful experience with room scale and with the better controllers and a higher fidelity experience, they can always jump on an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive and get a gaming computer and can upgrade their experience that way. So PlayStation VR could be a great gateway drug. And then the other big benefit that comes to Vive and Rift players eventually is the fact that so many PSVR developers, when they're developing these games, they're developing them on PCs. Now they're dialing it in for the original PlayStation 4 system and also the PlayStation 4 Pro, but it doesn't take that much additional work for them to get these games working with an Oculus Rift and working with an HTC Vive. And we've seen this repeatedly. We've seen this with Headmaster. We've seen this with Super Hypercube. We've seen this with a lot of PlayStation VR games that have eventually made their way over to the Rift and the Vive. And the reason they're making their way over is because it's just logical. The developer has already done 85% of the work. Now they have to do another 15% of the work, and I'm throwing these numbers out of my ass, obviously, but they don't have to do quite as much work to get these things up and running on an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive and enhance the graphics a little bit and enhance the tracking. And we're going to be benefits of that. I have all three of them, so I'll benefit from all of it. But what I'm saying is if you're a Vive or a Rift owner only, you're still going to benefit from PSVR's success. So this is great news for the entire VR market overall, especially when we've had some more negative news recently in the PC VR sector. Center. So this is just great news all around. So it's really good to see this. It's encouraging and it's uplifting, and I'm very excited about that. And it's good to see PSVR get into the hands of so many players over there in England. And what's up with the rest of Europe? Come on, Italy, Spain, Germany, all these other countries. Come on, you guys are your PlayStation VR. I mean, not PlayStation VR, but your PlayStation fans in general. I know that PlayStation in mainland Europe is incredibly popular, much more popular than Xbox. And so, come on, mainland Europe, you guys need to step it up as well and start buying yourself some PlayStation VR systems. Okay, the last of my regular news stories is the first IMAX VR Center has opened up in Europe. And this is very much a Europe-themed show today, it seems. But yeah, so IMAX has a number of these VR centers. I believe they have one in Los Angeles. I think they have a couple of different locations. I know there's one in Los Angeles. Now they have one in Europe. This is going to be located in Manchester, England. I guess it's already open, so it is located. It has a total of 10 pods, and each pod has 2 headsets. Now, customers that come in and they want to try this stuff out, they can choose either multiplayer VR action or they can choose single player VR action. And some of the multiplayer games that are on offer for them is Star Trek Bridge Crew, Eagle Flight, and Raw Data, to name a couple. And then a few of the single player experiences is Archangel and Justice League VR. Now the prices are about £7.50 per person, and I'm not sure how much time you actually get on these headsets or with this equipment for your £7.50. You might only get like a half an hour or 45 minutes, or who knows what it is. If anybody has visited this location in Manchester, Manchester, England, or if you visited the one in Los Angeles, maybe go ahead and report in our comment section about how much time you actually get for this. But basically what this is, so a lot of people might think, well, why would someone go to one of these VR centers to try something like Eagle Flight or Raw Data? Why wouldn't they just go to like a Microsoft store or something where they happen to have a Vive demo set up? Okay, so the answer to that question is multifaceted. First of all, number one, Microsoft stores and GameStops and some of the places here in the United States where you can sample, say, an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive, there's not that many. There's not that many. You might have to drive several hours to find a location that actually has a demo set up. Like I know GameStop has a handful of stores that do have HTC Vive demos, but there's only like 6 or 7 in the entire United States, and there's literally thousands upon thousands of GameStops. So you might have to drive a long way to find a place that is doing this. And then the other part of it is that how many times have you gone somewhere to demo something and there's a long line of people and you get into the demo and they're kind of hovering around you. You don't really get to enjoy it. There's a lot of lights everywhere. You hear people talking, so you don't get the full enjoyment of that experience. So if you go to one of these IMAX VR centers, hey, you're paying legitimate money to try to get a legitimate VR experience. And you're probably going to be in a situation where there's not a lot of bright lights. You don't have people like hovering right over you, bothering you. So this is an opportunity for people to try out these VR experiences in a better setting, even though this is some of the same kind of stuff that they might be able to try at a Microsoft store or at a GameStop, or in the UK, it might be game retailers. I don't know how many retailers actually have demos, and that's the other problem there. Now, what I'll say personally is I personally believe that we need to do better than this. Okay, so having these centers where people can try out stuff like Star Trek Bridge Crew and Eagle Flight and Raw Data, all of that is good. But I think what IMAX should do, and this is probably something they're working on, but it's probably a little bit more into the future in terms of when this will be available. But I've always had this thought that if you can bring someone to a VR center, I have this idea of having like a warehouse, right? And having experiences that you can put people in. Now, this would have to be like backpack PC type of thing, and you would have to have special type of tracking to pull this off. but I'm thinking of stuff that's more like the Void, you know, where like I could imagine if you went to some type of warehouse and they have this like special VR experience where it's like you're in Egypt, you know, back in the time of Egypt, you know, and you're walking around in this area, and maybe there's like benches and stuff, and you're in this Egyptian experience, and the bench is physically there, so you can sit down on the bench, you're physically there, and you have the VR on, and it looks like you're in Egypt. It looks like you're in ancient Egypt, and it's this magical experience. And maybe they can even have steps that make it feel like, you know, you're climbing up steps of the pyramid, and they can create some type of experience like that. I really think that's where the future is for location-based VR experiences, that it should go more to the Void style of things rather than just simply a simple VR arcade where they're playing regular experiences that me and you can enjoy in our own homes. But at the same time, you have to understand that not everybody has like a big open area where they can do room scale. A lot of people have very small rooms in their house, so they might not have an ideal situation. They might not have the money for a high-end gaming PC and things like this. So it still does give someone an opportunity to try VR out. So these IMAX VR centers are good. I just hope that they have plans going forward for more impactful experiences with more tactile sensations that will drive people even more. I want people to have VR experiences where they're like, oh my God, this is so freaking incredible. It's like going to a new world and experience a new world. And they're so pumped up about it that they know that they can't get that at home, but they can at least get an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive, and they can get kind of a taste of that. And I think that's going to help spread the word of VR that much more. I really hope the Void becomes really popular and they have a lot more locations, because I think that will really drive VR adoption, because I think people are going to be just so blown away that they're going to want a little taste of that at home. Because back in the 80s, when we had arcades, you know, regular gaming arcades, people would go to the arcades. They were so blown away by what they experienced in the arcade that they grabbed themselves an Atari or an Intellivision or a ColecoVision, because they wanted just a little bit of what they experienced in the arcade. And they weren't getting the same thing, but they got enough of it, and they were in their own home. And that's how this whole ball started rolling. So I really hope that these IMAX VR centers and the Void and stuff like that, I really hope this stuff really blows up. So that's going to go ahead and do it for today's episode of our daily vlog series. And once again, it has been episode 40 of the daily vlog series for Monday, November 27th. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy. Have a great Monday. See you tomorrow.